This is Rolling with Tay Podcast, episode 8, and I'm your host, Tasia, aka Tay, and my guest today is Serena. I met Serena via Facebook a few days before we did the Black Girls Do Bike Century Ride to Brewster, New York. And ever since then, we've been friends. We've gone on some rides together. Nothing like the epic rides she's been going on lately, but yeah, we've gone on some cool rides together. But I first like to thank Serena for being a guest on Rolling with Tay podcast.
Happy to be here.
Yeah, thanks again for doing this. Joining me this morning, even though I'll release it next week, I just want to let you guys know that we are up pretty early doing this interview.
We are. But it's such an important conversation, I think, talking about women and biking and getting us moving, getting us finding ways to keep releasing our stresses in life.
Exactly. I totally agree. Okay, so let's get into it. Let's talk about your cycling journey. But first, did you cycle as a kid? Did you ride a bike as a kid? And if you did, do you remember the bike brand that you rode?
I have no idea the bike brand. It was some old garage sale kind of bike, that surprisingly rolled. But I mean, as a kid, I grew up in the country with a hippie mom. So if that means something to you, I did country things. So we did all the things. We did like backpacking where you put all your food and tent and, the things you're going to sleep on. You go in the wilderness for 5 days and stay out there. I hated it. My mom loved it. But I started to love it too. But we did driving cross country. We did building houses in the forest, all that hippie stuff, but biking was maybe peripheral. But I do know what we did do is, never buy new clothing because we would always be traveling. That was my mom's save our money for travel. And we didn't have a TV. So it just meant that my playground had to be outside. So I didn't bike, but I think it was kind of foundational for me that the outside is our playground, that the outside is where you kind of explore and enjoy. I do know that because of that, my mom has taught me that the unknown is safe, like that beyond the bend, beyond those trees, it's not dangerous. And I know that's like a core belief that's inside of me as a kid and up until now.
That's dope. That's dope. I like your mom's philosophy.
Yeah, I remember her talking early on about wanting to bike across Cuba. And that's currently one of my goals. But early on, she'd say these crazy things, bike across Italy. I'm like, Mom, biking? What? So I think she planted seeds.
That's really cool. That's really cool. So what got you into cycling as an adult?
Yeah, I think I've always cycled, to work 5 miles there and back, and that was far, and then I guess the obsession, and I might call it such, started really in the pandemic. I remember a friend lent me his race bike, and I was like, what is this creation? I had like this big cruiser bike with a basket, and the race bike changed everything for me. And then September 2020, a friend said, we had gone up to Cold Spring hiking, and he said, you couldn't go to Cold Spring by bike. That's crazy. And I was like, watch me. And he didn't know what he'd started. And so imagine like this heavy white cruiser bike with a basket going down 9W. For those who don't know, it's a main road that heads upstate. And there's me with my Google Maps talking to me, dreadlocks flying in the wind, Afrobeat blasting, and all those like skinny Rafa guys in their kits passing me.
Wow.
And and I know they looked at me crazy. I would look at me crazy now. But it was the first time I threw myself into the wilderness like alone. I made it to Cold Spring. I got lost 1,000 times. I killed a chipmunk,
Oh,
Tasia.
rest in
It
peace.
was it was a moment. And I biked my farthest distance, which was 62 miles at that
Ooh.
point. And it was like I did it, and this thing that I was told I couldn't do, I did. And it unleashed this thing inside me, like hard to kind of name, but it was such an adventure. And this is during quarantine. That's the backdrop, right? Like I've been locked
Mm-hmm.
in my house in this prison. And then I biked to Cold Spring. And I think it just reminded me that I really can get on a bike and go anywhere.
Nice.
And that awoke the thing. So like you said, like what started it? I think it was that moment of like, wait, bike is a vehicle to get me anywhere I want to go.
Mm-hmm.
And that was cool. That was like, oh my gosh. And in a time when we're supposed to be, on lockdown,
Mm-hmm.
it was a special thing.
Yeah. Uh, Bikes can take you places cars can't.
That's true. It's so true. We were talking about that the other day. Like there's just places you can access
Mm-hmm.
that you wouldn't always be able to by car. You wouldn't even stumble upon.
Yeah,
Like where we met,
definitely.
that South County Trailway, or where we did our first century together.
Mm-hmm.
Like that is just magic you cannot access by car.
Exactly. Like you can't. And as you know, I interviewed Nadir, and he prefers mountain biking over road cycling, just because he can enjoy the nature more.
Mm,
And and that's probably right, because I compared it as, cycling and riding a car, like things you won't see and things you won't smell, and even with the flies flying in your face, the bugs flying in your face, which
mm,
no one wants, but it's stuff that you can't feel or experience riding in a car,
mm.
so I totally agree with you.
Yeah, it's I mean that wind on your face, you sometimes not knowing exactly where you're going, that uncertainty, being outside, often in community, we're riding with
Yes.
people. We
Mm-hmm.
often
Mm-hmm.
have, some loud beat playing or some like soca. And it's
Mm-hmm.
just this, it checks boxes, cycling.
Yeah.
It's not that it's just a sport. And I know with me and you, like, it's like it checks connection,
Yeah.
community, moving our bodies, travel. We both
Yes.
travel, and it checks that box. I get to see new things with my eyes, and that does something to me.
Yeah. It's a vibe.
It's a total vibe. It is.
Right? So people, if you're looking for a vibe, get on the bike.
Do it. Do it. I mean, I really would say that during this pandemic, cycling revolution has started, particularly among the Black community. And I don't think that's a coincidence. And I was thinking about that the other day. Just this
Mm-hmm.
like illusion of cruise. And it's not a coincidence. I think we all like trying to find a way to like release and cope and move through our pain, and biking.
Yeah. Yeah.
It does that.
Uh, just a quick like history lesson, right? I do research, genealogy research, and I look up old newspapers, sometimes just randomly looking up random stuff. And so I looked up black cycling
Mm,
in the 1890s, and there were so many black cycle clubs across the US.
really?
And yes, I'll share some of those documents with you. And it's funny because I did an article about this black cyclist who rode from um, New York to California to raise money for to pay for his dad's farm. And this
Mm,
was in the 1890s. And this guy happened to see it, and he's also been writing about black cycling clubs, but on the west side, so in the Bay Area. And we connected, and it's just like, yo, I wonder if people know this. Like, this is so right. You're right. It's not a coincidence, but it's happened before. Like,
mm,
and they're doing the same thing. They're writing. They are having social events.
mm,
Um, they're using it more than just, the sports. They're using it as a social gathering.
Mm-hmm.
And what I've seen happen, like you said, especially over the pandemic, and I'm just like, wow, this is like, it's a resurgence. But a lot of people don't even realize that, in the 1890s, you know, we were all up and through this. We were,
Yes. Yes, it's
so
like the untold narrative and the untold
yeah,
story. And I love your word, resurgence. Yeah,
yeah,
this is not new because that is the narrative I think we hold,
yeah,
not knowing that history. It is a resurgence. We are reclaiming.
yep. So yeah, that's really dope. And I'll share some of the stuff with you so you can take a look at it.
Oh, beautiful.
But so now you do your ride to Cold Springs. We do the Century ride together. But it's like, I think you want more, right? I think you want to take it to the next level. And you have. So what transitioned you to say, you know what? Yeah, this is cool and all, but I want to go faster and further.
Mm. I I think the athlete in me, this like part of me that went to sleep when I was like 20,
Mm,
she like woke up. I played ball all high school and college. I was that girl who brings a
mm,
ball on the court at 14, I
mm.
remember, and being like, I got next. I can't even imagine doing that now. But like or 17 and this like young age, I'd go on the court and call next and play with these guys all day, all evening. But there was this fierce athlete. I was going to the WNBA for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Like there was no doubt. And then she went to sleep. I
Mm-hmm.
got into academia. I traveled. I worked. I became an adult, whatever that
Mm-hmm.
means. And then like she went to sleep. I said she died to a friend, and someone's like, no, she didn't. She went to sleep.
Mm,
And then biking awoke her. And I think this like desire, like you're saying, to push the limit, this thing to see what I'm made of, right? I think I never got to express her fully.
mm,
And I always wanted to see like what my body can do. And yeah, hungry for more. And so I just kept biking, just kept biking and trying to push the limit, see new places, experience new things. And so I just, what it turned into is I just, on Wednesdays, which was my day off, I'd set my alarm for 5 and then just get up and bike somewhere, choose somewhere on the map and just go.
mm.
And that's been kind of how I've been operating for a while till I joined Century Plus Crew. And I met some fellow crazy folk who love pushing the limit too.
That is so dope. That is so dope. You you have this motivation, this discipline. I'm gonna tell you, you were out there when it was cold. I'd have rolled over like, let me check the weather. Nah, I'm gonna go back to sleep. But you have this discipline. You're like, yo, I'm gonna use my day off to go explore, and I commend you for that.
I should. So it's not like just the athlete part of me. There's this, I think I'm calling it right now, emotional cyclist. I think I'm an
Mm,
emotional cyclist. What that means to me is that I really, cycling's my release valve for strong
mm-hmm.
emotions. So if you see like a 2 a.m. 40-mile ride, you know what it is.
Yeah,
Or
yeah.
like I'm imagining or remembering like many times where I'm feeling a certain way, anxious, nervous, sad, a strong emotion, and I need to release it when I get on my bike. So that's also a huge reason why I biked in winter, to get out of the house, to like needing to shift my mood.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I've done that, not not as often as you have, but I definitely have done that. Like, I need to go get on the bike. I'm feeling anxious. I'm feeling some type of way, and then every time I come back, I'm like, I'm glad I went.
Mm-hmm.
I cleared my mind. Like you said, release whatever was inside, and now I feel better, and my day usually goes better. So I agree
Yeah.
with you on that. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think, it's no small feat just to touch on like biking, blackness, mental health. As
Mm-hmm.
you know, I'm a therapist, so I'm very invested in ways that we create to release strong emotions, to move through pain.
Mm-hmm.
And more than ever, we need that. And, just as I'm thinking about this, I'm remembering when the guy I was dating when I first started cycling broke up with me on my bike.
Mm-hmm.
I was riding my bike. I'd done one of my like a little trip somewhere, and I just started cycling, starting to love this thing. And I remember biking past on this country road. I'm passing a cemetery, and my phone rings. It's him. I stop the bike, sit down on the curb. He breaks up with me. I cry, and I ride, and I'm like, I was going maybe 15 miles an hour, and I go down to like 3, 6, and I'm
Mm-hmm.
crying and I'm crying. And I share this because we've all had a moment like this, even if we don't say it out loud.
Yeah.
And I'm crying, and I'm in public, and I'm a Black woman in white space
Mm-hmm.
crying. So people maybe have been watching, but I find this stretch of the road or the route where there's no cars. It's just like a path. And I'm not having to worry about cars or people seeing me, and I'm crying and I'm riding. And then I slowly start to ride faster. And I think this was a pivotal moment. It's why I'm being vulnerable and sharing it,
Mm-hmm.
where I start to ride faster. So now I'm at 7 miles an hour, and then 8. And it was like an aha moment where I was like, oh, wow, like this physical movement of my body is mirroring the emotional movement that's happening. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm starting to feel better, and I'm starting to bike faster. And I left that ride, and I had worked through a lot in a short time period. But I share this to say that I think the physical movement sometimes of climbing a hill or of moving our body, of not sitting on the couch eating Ben and Jerry's after a hard time, right? But
Mm-hmm.
moving our body will actually mirror and create emotional internal movement, like a mirror.
Damn, that was heavy. But so true. No, that's so true. I tell people all the time. It doesn't have to be cycling. It could be something. I also rollerblade. So that's another,
Yes, you do.
like I will go out. I'm feeling in a mood. I'll drive downtown and skate. It's
Mm,
night, I'm skating. People are like, you out there? Yeah, I'm out. Yes. And I'm really, like I said, and like you said, I'm mirroring how I'm feeling inside, you know? So it just any type of physical activity, I think is really good for our mental health, as often as we can. Not only for your physical health, but your mental health.
mm-hmm. Absolutely. I could not, agree more. Like whatever our thing is.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. So you touched on Century Plus Crew. Can you tell us a little bit about what exactly that is and what exactly you guys do on many weekends?
Yeah. We ride a lot. And so Century Plus Crew, or we call it CPC, um, was born in October 2020 when we did the Montauk
Mm-hmm.
ride that terrified me. My longest ride to date, 150 miles.
Woo.
It was, I was terrified the night before, biked from Harlem to Brooklyn at like 3 in the morning in the rain to start the ride. And this crew was formed out of this Montauk ride.
Mm.
And it was and is a cycling crew, but really is a family. And
Yeah.
so we do 2 centuries a month, and then training rides. And
Mm-hmm.
so our 2 centuries a month go many different places. We've done Philly twice. We like Philly. We've done Montauk, Brewster, there and back, Bear Mountain, Lake Tarati. Um, and so we do these 2 centuries a month, and then training rides. And training rides or activities are like hill repeats, where we're training our legs to hills. Cadence, where we're working on spinning our legs fast so we can get faster.
Mm-hmm.
Interval trainings, jump roping, and this crew really checks all my boxes. They've become family. We see each other multiple times a week and ride together a lot. So we have open rides,
Mm-hmm.
a calendar. We're on Instagram and welcome anyone who wants to kind of push themselves. The crew rides fast and it's kind of 17 miles an hour plus on flats, but there's
Mm-hmm.
always a faster and slower group than that. So it pushes you, and it's a special group of people.
That's cool. That's cool. Like I've seen some of the rides. They're like, yeah, we're gonna go to Philly. We're gonna do 100 something miles. I'm like, what? Are we staying in Philly after that? Like, how would but
Yeah.
that definitely I'm gonna ride with you guys one day. I don't know when, but I'm gonna push myself and
You are so welcome.
say that I rode with y'all. Check that off my box.
No, I mean, I think what I love about this group of people is people who are equally hungry for like pushing the limit. I think there's so many different cycling crews, which is beautiful because you can
Yeah,
choose from
yeah.
like you want to do brunch and turn up and then ride, 2 miles. You want to ride to the beach and just chill out. You want to do evening rides. You want to do protest rides. Um, and I love that because really, this point, you can look on your calendar on a Saturday and there's 5 rides to choose from. Or
Exactly.
on a Tuesday evening, be like, oh, which one do I want to do? Do I want to chase sunsets with blood, sweat, and gears, or
Mm-hmm.
go do sushi dinner ride with MBR, or should I do jump roping tonight with CPC? But it's lovely to have that range of choice and community. It's
Yes.
all it becomes friends and family after a while of riding and suffering together. We we go in it together.
You're definitely right. After those hills
Mm.
and after that long ride, if you've experienced this with the people on your ride, now you have this commonality. Like, hey, remember that ride? I may not remember that person's name, but next time I see them, I'm like, yo, you on that ride where we rode 100+ miles? Yeah, I was there. So that connection right there, and I love that. I may not remember your name, but hey, we were on that
Mm.
ride together because you remember that. Yeah, you caught that flat,
Yeah, yeah.
or yeah, So I really enjoy being able to um, jump on rides with different crews, meet different people,
Mm-hmm.
share that community, you know.
Exactly.
And like you said, that's another important factor in cycling, and especially in Black cycling,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
you know.
Exactly. It checks those boxes, and I think it creates that the time together, riding together, creates a certain intimacy
Mm-hmm.
and connection that I feel with my cycling, family that's different than other people in my world. There's a bonding that happens, a
Yeah.
community that happens that's special and needed. Someone referred to our crew as a party on wheels, and I was like, I like that. I'll
Mm-hmm.
add a party on wheels that, also, we're really pushing and doing high speeds and a lot of elevation and pushing ourselves. There's times I want to throw in the towel, take the train, but the music's playing. The music's
Yeah.
playing, so keep going, keep going.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel you. So, what are a couple of your cycling goals?
Let's see. So I have several. I
Mm-hmm.
want to bike across Cuba.
Yeah, you said that earlier. Mm-hmm.
I do want to bike to Montreal.
Mm-hmm.
I want to bike around Puerto Rico.
Mm-hmm.
There's a ride to do that with car support. Um, and then I want to like get my average speed up to like 17, 18 on
Mm-hmm.
my rides, which is fast, and I'm not there. So I'm working on my speed. I'm really just trying to keep up with the guys in the front. That's always been kind of the goal. And do a lot of adventure long distance rides.
Yeah. Some good goals.
Thank
And
you.
I
Mhm.
see you accomplishing them, especially getting your speed up. We went on that ride to Nyack, and you were like, "Hey, you had just had a bike accident," and you said, "Hey, um, I'm a little slow. I hope I can keep up." So I'm like, "Girl, whatever. Yeah, we're not gonna go fast or whatever." Man, I was trying to keep up with you, and I was like, "I thought she said." In the back of my mind, I'm like, "What the hell?" I'm over here trying to keep up with you. I'm like, "Oh gosh!" And then we see my friend after we cross over the
That
Como
Como
Bridge.
Bridge.
Yeah, and he was like, "Oh, y'all gonna do 9W?" And I'm like,
That's right.
"No." And then I thought about it. I said, "Tasia, what? First of all, what do you have to do right today? Nothing. It's a beautiful day. You with your friend. Like, push yourself." And I had never done the loop before, so um, we did it, and I was so happy to see the market on 9W. I was so happy to see that market.
I remember this. You did
Oh,
amazing, girl. Like, no, but you got me on my bike. I was scared to do 9W. It was my first time on 9W since my accident.
mm-hmm.
And no, you like got me. You motivated me to keep going because I was ready to go back on that trail and get away from the cars.
Oh man,
That was a
yeah,
good ride.
yeah. That was a good ride. That was a good ride, and I'm glad we did it.
Me too. I think it was the beginning of a lot of my like starting to push myself because I was very scared and fearful at that point. So I appreciate you.
Same here, sis. Same here.
Mhm.
All right. We're about to wrap up, but you ride with a lot of guys, and
That happens.
like, yes, within this sport, yes, you're gonna ride with a lot of men unless you ride with specific groups that, like, Black Girls Do Bike,
Mm-hmm.
or the Bronx Girl Bike Gang. I hope
Yeah.
I said that right. So there are a few crews out here that are specific for women, but the much larger groups, that target everyone, there's a lot of guys.
Mm-hmm.
So, one, do you ever get intimidated just riding with them? Like your crew, Century Plus crew, it's the majority of men, and it's only a few women that are part of your crew, right?
Mm-hmm. We have more and more women joining, but yes, majority
Okay.
are men.
All right, cool.
But your question, do I get intimidated? Absolutely. Before rides, I remember in particular Montauk and Bear Mountain, Philly. Philly was my first big ride after my accident. Um, Terrified. I don't sleep the night before. I'm
Mm,
nauseous. I'm so nervous. And then, what I do, like therapeutically for myself is lean into it and actually
mm,
talk to the anxiety.
mm-hmm,
So I will talk to it and ask it, like, what is this really about, is a
mm,
big question I ask myself. And when you can unpack and pull apart the anxiety and see what it's made of, it's often things you can concretely solve. If you're worried of getting lost and on the route, get the route, put it on your phone, put it on your Garmin or Wahoo by computer. So then
mm-hmm.
that decreases that anxiety. If you're worried about shame and ego, let that go. You're going to be dropped. I was dropped last week. I'm dropped regularly because I like to ride people faster than me. So
Yeah.
get used to being dropped if you're trying to improve your cycling game. And so that's everyone does. Everyone gets dropped. And so leaning into the anxiety, asking it questions, and talking to it helps me. I think riding with people faster than you is definitely a rule for me, and is a good rule for everyone to push ourselves. So I
Mm-hmm.
know I just think of it that way a bit. And the guys, find the right guys. So if we're talking, if I'm kind of giving tips to women, like,
Mm-hmm.
find the right guys. Like, some guys are not there to be supportive. And, fortunately, I've found a very wonderful crew of men who are really trying to get women to cycle, to get faster, to be stronger, to be brave, and supporting us in a non-mansplaining way. And like, let's do this, girl. Like, I'll just briefly share. There is one human In my crew, Devontae, I had to lead a ride. Well, they pushed me to lead a ride, and I co-led it with Devontae, one of the Century Plus crew members, and he knew I was really nervous, and he actually like curated and created all these songs to play because we led the rides. We're at the front, and he always plays the best music. And he played all my favorite songs, like some old school hip hop, Slum Village. We had a Tribe Called Quest, and he was just playing songs I knew, and he got me singing while I'm leading a ride, and my anxiety just decreased. And
Yeah.
I just like that. That's the kind of humans we need to be around. The men we need to be around who like are supporting you to be that,
Yes.
And so
Yes.
choose them carefully because they're not all supportive, but there's so many good people out there who want you to get stronger. And I'll just add, in terms of advice to other women, like do you ride your ride. And I find really finding a crew of other like men or women who want to ride like the way I want to ride is really important, like a little family, because that motivates you. You set a weekly ride. Okay, Wednesday morning's our ride, or Thursday afternoon. And then thinking about the kinds of rides you want to do and just finding them
Yes.
is key in my mind.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I second that. Yes.
Yeah.
Well, I want to thank you so much again for being a guest on the Rolling with Tay podcast. Any final words before we break out this piece?
Yeah, just I think that we all have our pulls into things that make us feel good, and we need to find them and do them, right? So I'm honored to have been on your podcast and fully support, what you do, having these conversations with people who are active and who are kind of trying to figure out how to live their best life, or how we feel full. Like, I
Yeah.
think that's what I really appreciate about your podcast is just living our truth. And I think we're all on that journey to finding it.
Thank you so much. And yeah, folks, just get out there. I'm suggest you get on a bike or some skates, but whatever, whatever's your fancy. Yeah. So this has been Rolling with Tay podcast, episode 8. I'm your host, Tasia, aka Tay, and I'll see you on the next one.